Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mystic Journeys with HB, Derek, and Nerdy.
What's up, guys?
We are way back in it today. Way back Wednesday, episode 19. Yes, sir. Week 19.
Yeah.
We are moving right on through the book. Just about at the halfway point of this
Before we get
point with
started,
the.
I want to remind everybody that you guys maybe have like 4 or 5 more hours to finish your taxes.
Got a
Get
good
on it.
reminder.
I just squeezed by, so I'm good. I got the confirmation email; it was accepted.
Good, good.
Right
Yeah,
on.
we got both. We got confirmations from both state and federal.
Yeah.
Um,
Sweet.
the government's gladly accepting their money.
Oh yeah. Can't you tell me how much I
Yes.
owe? No, you tell me.
Nope, nope. You
If
figure it out.
you get it wrong, we're going to penalize you.
Mhm.
Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Yeah, let's see who's in here. We got Nerdy in the chat. JQ, what's up? Got Coach. What's up in there, Coach?
What's up, Coach?
Laura, what's up? Laura, how are you? Lynette, thank you guys for joining us. You guys don't like today's episode. I got a lot to speak about it. The topic today basically is questions. Like, what are the kinds of questions that you ask whenever you're discovering something new or going through something new? The prompt is, what kind of questions do you begin with whenever you're faced with a new project? So give everybody just a minute or two to get in here. So you got 7 people. Give everybody just a second, and then we'll get started with the reading. You guys can go ahead and answer the prompt in the chat if you'd like, and then I'll get into this story.
What kind of questions do you begin with when you're faced with a new project? Okay. Aside from how much am I getting paid?
It's a pretty important question, isn't it?
Yeah.
How much is it going to cost me?
Mm-hmm.
Physically, mentally, as well, right?
Yeah.
There's a battery, the level that we have that we're allowed to give out so much energy, mentally, physically, to people.
I think a lot of people, I don't know, I have a hard time with that, just because people do approach me with a lot of projects, and a lot of times people don't fully understand the scope of what they're asking. That's why they're asking me, because they need those answers.
Yeah,
So
100%.
it's not only like, do I need to know what questions to ask them, but it's kind of hard. It's much harder for them to understand which questions to ask me, because they're coming out of this with no experience, and I've got all these years of experience under my belt, knowing what I do. So you have to have a lot more grace on my side when people are asking you a lot of questions like that.
Yeah. And not only what questions to ask people, but how to ask the question too, how to frame the question, and how to look at it from other people's perspectives, so you can set the question up to be received well. There's a quote in here. It starts off. It says, "Ask the right questions" is today's title. An Albert Einstein quote that says, "I have no special talents. I am only passionately curious." And I have a couple quotes, and one of them's from Einstein. We'll get to those in just a little while, though. Let's go ahead and get to the reading. A company that was receiving negative customer service reviews requested a customer service training program that would teach their new employees about the basic principles of customer service. They hoped that this would reduce the amount of negative reviews they had been receiving. The person who would be creating the training asked to speak with their employees to ask a few questions, and the company agreed. After speaking with the employees, they found that the company had instituted a new policy about a month ago. The policy significantly reduced the amount of time an employee could be on the phone with the customer. And if the employees went over their call time, it affected their bonuses. Ultimately, this led to the employees rushing through their calls to make sure that they could beat the new policy, which resulted in negative customer service reviews. The research found that the company needed to take a closer look at the call time policy instead of creating a new training program. What if the person who was to create this program didn't ask any questions? Think of all the time and money that would have been wasted, as it wouldn't have solved the problem. Whenever you begin any project, the questions you ask are crucial to the success of that project. I have a particular set of questions that I've crafted over the years to pinpoint exactly what I needed and why. Sometimes it means my services aren't needed. Instead, it's a whole different problem altogether. But no matter what the capacity we work in, our duty is to ask the right questions to determine the best direction. Today's prompt: what kind of questions do you begin with whenever you're faced with a new project? Share questions that you found to be invaluable.
I worked with
Cheers.
Sprint, and they had a similar thing going on in the call center, where you had to sell every call. You had to make an offer on every call.
On commissions, right?
Also, they wanted every call one and done. That you would handle every customer um, in one call. But they also had a unrealistic call time. So you didn't have a lot of time to really address the customer's issue and sell, and try to upsell them and everything. And that was frustrating for a lot of people, you know, and especially, someone calls because their phone's shut off, their phone's not working, whatever, they didn't pay their bill. Oh, by the way, would you like to add another one? Well, you can't.
Mm.
I mean, sometimes it was frustrating, there was no opportunity, and then people would get dinged for that. And then, that would add more frustration. It was like, "Well, you didn't try to sell it." Well, there wasn't
They
enough.
weren't in the right,
Mm,
what's the word? Mindset.
yeah.
It's kind of hard to sell somebody when they're grieving or if they're pissed off or and you can kind of read people and you can tell if they're going to be receptive before you even ask that question.
Yeah. They don't
Yeah.
care.
No,
They don't care.
corporate.
It's a
Corporate
missed
doesn't care.
opportunity if you didn't try to sell them. That's how they looked at it. But
Honestly, this
well,
story was
people,
very, very relatable with the about the policy of keeping the call times down. It reminds me
Hmm.
of a friend of mine who works in or tends to work in corporate, and it's always about the policies. Like, well, the policy is this, the policy is this. And I'm like, well, their policy is inhuman and it's unrealistic and it's impossible to do things just because the policy says so. And you got to understand when you're doing stuff like this, you got to have some leniency and some grace and slack because nothing is perfect. Nothing.
Yeah. One of the most important things I think with asking a question is listening and letting go of your ego to ask a question as well too, right? Be more interested in what the other person has to say or talk about than what you have to say. Super important to your point. Letting your guard down, letting it go, letting your ego go, taking yourself out of the equation in the name of trying to learn something.
Mhm.
I think that's really important. I make a point about that here in some of my notes. Um, Actually, let me read something off real quick here. Albert Einstein emphasizes that the important thing is not to stop questioning, believing that curiosity and perpetual inquiry, or he called it the holy curiosity, are more crucial for progress and understanding than simply knowing answers. He famously noted that if he had an hour to solve a problem, he would spend 55 minutes defining the problem, or sorry, defining the proper question so that he could find the answer. That if he had 55 minutes to ask the proper question, that he would be able to figure out the answer in 5 minutes.
Mm.
The power of curiosity is the important thing is that to not stop questioning, and curiosity has its own reason for existing. Um, and he advised to never lose the holy curiosity. Noted, he once noted that it's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with the questions much longer. I think that's all I have here for that. Yes. But yeah, that's why I like the Einstein quote that I have here. You could,
I'm
you
back.
could, you could pull it up if you want that Einstein quote, Nuri. The question everything. This is a famous quote. You guys might have seen this in your school classrooms or something like that. I swear I remember seeing it in a school classroom. Question everything. Famous Einstein quote. Um,
I agree and I disagree
yeah,
with Einstein here.
and
Go ahead.
I have that in my notes as well. A lot of people think that it's questioning everything, like they don't need to know the answer to everything. So it's one of these things called the 5 C's of question answering or question asking rather. What's your what do you why do you think that you don't agree with what he says here?
Well, some people ask questions just to hear themselves talk. If let's, for
Hmm.
example, if I'm actively doing something like riding a bike and someone walks up, hey, what you doing, riding a bike?
Right.
Like, well, that was a dumb question.
Right.
Obviously you can see that I'm riding my bike, but
Yes.
and why are you wasting my time with this just such a stupid question that you could have just observed and kept it to yourself and not wasted anyone's time with that?
Yeah, I would just argue that that is the reason why to question everything because this speaks to our third agreement. I'm going to get a little bit of that. You're going to notice that this has a lot to do with the first agreement and the third agreement, and it has to do with the third agreement because without communication, assumptions are made. So if I ask you a question and you communicate to me, hey, right now is not a good time to ask questions.
Mm.
We've communicated clearly. I've asked you a question. I'm curious about something, even if I'm just doing it for answering the question's sake of it. And you've made it aware to me that you're not in the mood to answer the question or you don't have time or whatever it is in your
Sure.
case. It's clear communication, man. So I think even in that instance, it's a good test for us, right? To practice patience, to practice empathy, and all of the human emotions. Because
Try not to
asking
waste
questions is harmless.
impatience.
Yeah. Asking questions is completely harmless. You can harm no one by asking a question. 100%. You might hurt somebody's feelings, of course, right? And this is what we're going to talk about how to ask questions properly. But yeah.
Trying to think if there's an exception.
There was
Can you
the
Right.
help
old
somebody by asking
the old
questions?
me would give a sarcastic answer to something like that, like, you know, good observation, Captain Obvious. But they might be trying to strike up a conversation. Then you stop. You say, "I'm riding my bike because my car broke down," or something.
Hmm.
Then
Yeah.
there's an opportunity for a healthy conversation with somebody.
Right.
I agree,
But
man.
are you riding your bike is a little different than are you riding your bike as I'm riding it down the sidewalk.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because of the connotation of it. So this is what I have to make an important point here that context is everything when it comes to questions. How
Uh-huh.
you frame the question, how the person's feeling, where the person context is everything with questions.
I
It's
have a
the
hard
majority
time
of questions.
not making assumptions about why they're asking the question, and I jump to conclusions
Correct.
before I even answer.
Right.
And
one
that's
Hundred
something
percent.
I struggle with totally. And then also not taking it personally when they're asking a question for a reason that I don't like.
I feel like it's human though because we all have our own perception. So I might be thinking that you're asking me a different question than you actually are because the way language and perception works. Perspective.
Right.
That's contrast, right? So um, context is providing me to you perspective, and contrast is providing me to the other world experience. Can you pull that next quote up if you don't mind? There's another great quote here from Voltaire. This is judge a man by his questions rather than by his answers.
Mm.
Um, and Voltaire, he was a 18th century philosopher. For people who aren't familiar,
Looks a lot like Isaac Newton.
it kind of just have that vibe, you know. Maybe I guess it was the thing of the time because more than likely he's probably wearing a wig, right?
Most likely. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Um, if you guys don't care, let me rant for a minute.
Go for it.
Um, I have some notes here, and I'm going to pull this up as well as I speak. What makes a good question? And then my questions to answer today's prompt, by the way, to get these out of the way, I wrote down what do others do? How do they do what they do? Why do they do what they do? What can I do differently than what they do? Why am I doing what I'm doing? What's my purpose here? What am I trying to achieve? What do I need? What am I going to need physically? What am I going to need mentally, emotionally to be able to do this task? To do this thing, my task or project, hobby, whatever I'm doing. What's practical? What's the most practical route I can take without having to jump through a million hoops to accomplish what I need to accomplish? these are kind of the questions that I wrote down. And I think that I watched a couple TED Talks on this today, so I'm going to kind of parrot a lot about what I heard on there. But the way that kids ask questions is a great way to think about how to ask a question. Kids ask questions like why or where are we going, or like those are really like curious questions to get
My
people's
favorite.
minds.
Why is my favorite question?
Yeah. And that's great questions. And kids really have that curious mind because everything's fresh and new to them and they're trying to learn and trying to, it's life. They have to be able to know this for survival. So everything is a question to them. And that's where the Einstein thing comes in. It's like the more you know, the more you ask, the more you know. That's why asking the question can be so important, right?
Hmm.
Um, and when it comes to questions, context is everything. You're never better for not knowing something. I say this a lot on the show. And honestly, I couldn't even find who said that quote, but I know I heard it from somewhere. And ever since I've heard that, it stuck with me because you're never better for not knowing something. It's just like I was saying, you cannot hurt somebody by telling them or asking them a question, rather. So, like, asking a question can never hurt you or hurt anyone else. Um, Childlike curiosity is something we can all benefit from. Questions like what, why, how, um, or questions with content, right? Questions without content can be questions like yes or no questions, where people are forced to answer it yes or no, whenever yes and no can have a huge rainbow of context. And try to avoid using yes or no questions. Never trust a yes or no question because yes or no questions have no content. Because I could say, if somebody says, hey, do you want to go to the park this week? And I'm like, yeah. Or I could be like, yeah, but, or I could be like, yeah. There's like different ways I could say yes. And there's like a million ways to interpret that. That's why being impeccable with your word is a really key thing here
It
about using your
depends.
language the way that you mean. Say again, nerdy.
Depends. Someone asks you a yes or no question, the best way to respond, I would say, is it depends.
Correct. And yes or no questions aren't always bad, but it's best to try
No.
to avoid them to really be more intricate with what you're trying to say. Again, a clarity. What is your question? What are you really trying to ask here? Um, Curiosity, make sure you want to know the answer. Clarity, what is your question? Context, what's your context? What's your perspective, their perspective with the question that you're asking? Content, as I just mentioned, it's what's needed to be known and what's not. What I would actually need to know to answer this question, and what I don't need to know to answer this question, to get a as clear question answered as I can. And then contract, look at things from a different perspective. Um, Judge a man by his questions rather than his answers. Life isn't black and white. Life is usually in between somewhere. Life isn't yin or yang or good or bad. It's usually somewhere in between. And um, answers are pretty much the same way. And um, more often than not, the question is more important than the answer. Yes and no questions, like I mentioned, they can be taken out of context because they are questions without content. Ask more and tell less. This also speaks to impeccability and um, this speaks to impeccability and being careful with our language when asking questions. And small changes can have a big impact. Um, so I have an example here. Whenever your kid gets home from school, this is an example that I got today from a gentleman I watched a video on. He says that whenever your kid gets home from school, you can ask your kid, "How was school?" But when you think about asking them about, hey, how was school? How was math today? But you're like, you want them to succeed at math. So what you say to them is, I bet that you had a good day of with math at school today. So you kind of set them up for a question to answer the question in a way that is either going to disappoint you or it's going to, um, you're going to be happy to hear it. So it's a manipulative question. It's the same way that yes or no questions are best to be avoided because they can be manipulative. If you ask somebody a yes or no question, then they're stuck answering binary, yes, no. When in reality, questions and emotions and answers can be a wide variety of things, not really black and white.
Instead of saying,
Um,
did you have a nice day at school today? You could say, how was your day?
exactly right. Well said, nerdy. Um, and that's why it's best to use like words like how or why or what or where. Again, questions that little kids would ask.
Mhm.
Um, and again, sometimes why can be really negative too. So again, this is why context is important. Put yourself in their shoes, and how would you feel if they asked you a question that you didn't feel or agree with? Um, you know, whenever you're on a date for the first time, this guy made a point about that. Whenever you're on the date for the first time and you ask more questions than you what answered about yourself, or you try to answer about yourself, you're going to learn way more, and you're going to present yourself in a way more professional and mature manner in a situation like that. And that's just a perfect example. A job is another example like that. If you're curious and you're asking questions, you're walking in the room like you don't know everything. It speaks to the Dunning-Kruger effect. Is what I have here, because instead of acting like you know everything, you're like, I don't really know what I know. And in that, it allows you to learn more because you're asking questions. Um, when we answer questions, we shouldn't assume we know. And that's one thing that I wrote down personally, because I think that whenever we answer questions, we shouldn't, like when a kid's asking a question, for example, like, how do the clouds form? You can't just say, oh, yeah, they form because of water and evaporations. It's like, because we don't really understand what we're saying. So what we should do is sit them down and learn with them, relearn this stuff that we, don't really know. Unless we're a meteorologist and that's our thing, right? But there's always going to be something that we don't really know the answer exactly to. And it's important to relearn or to rediscover that instead of just remembering that what we learned in our head is like a bank that we can tap into, because it's very inaccurate a lot of the times. Um, ask questions to connect with the community and the world around us, and to help. Um, sorry, I lost my place here. Um, ask questions to connect with the community and the world around us to help us remember um, our community in the world. And that's when we ask questions, instead of assuming why people have hate in their heart, why people have negativity, we can really get to breaking our past our third agreement of having assumptions about why people think or feel the way they feel. Um, and that's why um, you ask questions, like I said, what, why, who, where, and never yes or no question. Never trust a yes or no question. And for every question, ask, what does this question say for the person asking it? Isaac Newton asks, why an apple fell straight down and discovered gravity. Alexander Fleming asked why bacteria wasn't growing on his petri dish, and he discovered penicillin. The uh, scientist at 3M, was a factory. They were trying to make a permanent glue, and they came up with what sticky notes are. They came up with a glue that was sticky, but it could be removed, and they created paper tape. So instead of asking why didn't this turn out the way that I want it, he asked, what can I do with this? It's how you frame a question. This contrast. So it's looking at it from a different perspective. It's really super important.
That's awesome.
100%. Questions can make you seem smart or foolish, and they can um, bring realization or insight or innovation or creation, or they can create misunderstandings. The 5 C's, as I've put here on the board, it's curiosity, clarity, context, content, and contrast. And are you please, if you don't mind, can you go on to the next slide? I made this up today. This is it breaks it down a little bit more in depth. So curiosity, generally wanting to know the answer to the question that you're asking. You want to really be interested in the topic and not just trying to be interested in it for ego purposes, to look smart or look cool or look fascinating. And you see this a lot. I mean, you want to make sure that what you're really doing is your own passion. Um, context is understanding the background of the situation, including your own and the other person's perspective. It's pretty self-explanatory. You want to be able to ask a question like if you were in their shoes. Knowing the specific question to ask and avoiding asking multiple confused questions at once. Don't try to ask multiple questions at once, because it leads for better communication, better conversations whenever you ask one question at a time and get clarity and then move on to the next question, even if you have to, write it down or whatever you have to do. Providing the necessary information allow for a thoughtful answer without unnecessary details. That's content. So you don't want to add more than you need to your questions, and you don't want to have less than you need. You want to provide all the information. It's being impeccable with your word, making sure you're speaking thoroughly. Helping the listener gain a different perspective, such as moving from a tactical to a strategic level as contrast. It's essentially just stepping out, thinking outside the box is the way that people always say it. And to finish this off, to ask questions, you must let go of your ego, because sometimes we can be afraid to ask a question because we're afraid to look stupid. We're afraid to look not so smart. So we don't ask questions. And sometimes we ask questions, like Nerdy says, intentionally. So it seems like we're trying to be smart and we're trying to think about stuff on the outside of the box. So it's important to put your ego aside when you're asking questions and making sure you're asking them for intentional reasons. Put intention behind your questions when you ask them. And asking questions leads to better emotional intelligence with curiosity and staying open to others' perspective, and to better understanding and foster collaboration and in your community, compassion as well. Obviously, we talked about curiosity is something that you have to be able to ask questions, but compassion is something that you have to be able to have as well, because you have to be more intrigued in what the other person is saying than what you're trying to ask. It's good. It's important to be a good listener whenever you're asking questions, and compassion as well. Not compassion, but collaboration. So if I'm working with somebody, I need to be able to make sure I ask the right questions so that their feelings aren't hurt. So I'm not being taking things personally. They're not taking things personally. They're not making some. We're all working on the 4 agreements level here. It takes a lot of courage to ask questions too, because again, if you're feeling like you're looking stupid, you ask a question, you can actually learn a lot by being courageous. Communication is really important. It's our 3rd agreement. We talked about this already. And our creativity. To be creative, you have to ask questions like, how can I do this differently? How can I take something like art and do it differently than anybody's ever done before, music or mycology or whatever, right?
I think this
but that's all I have on that.
Makes me think of something else. Earlier, you were asking about, well, is there such a thing as a stupid question?
Correct.
I think there's another type of stupid question. It's the kind of question that you ask and you aren't listening for the answer.
Correct.
Because you're just going to keep asking it over and over and over and over again, and you're not actually learning or growing.
Yeah, and sometimes we have to ask simpler questions, right? If we're not understanding what the question is that we're asking. Mm-hmm. Because you can't ask what's multiplication without learning addition first. You have to learn how to crawl, then walk, and run. I think that sometimes we bite off a little bit more than we can chew because we're human. We're curious. So we're like asking the big questions right off the bat, like, how do we get to Mars? Like that kind of stuff. When it was like, let's learn how we can just get off the ground first.
Big difference between not listening and not comprehending. Big difference.
Right. That's kind of my point. Exactly right. Yes, sir. Like you're not actually understanding what I'm saying, but you're hearing what I'm saying, but you're not even listening to me. But you're just not hearing. Yeah.
Right.
And that's why putting your ego.
I can work with that.
Yeah. So putting your ego aside is a really important thing, and that's why on the question answer side, it's like you have to have a little bit of second agreement. Like don't take things personally when people don't listen to what you say. Yeah. Because it's maybe not their time. Yeah. Super important. Let's go through a couple of these quotes here just real quick to get them out of the way. Be interested, not interesting. I love this quote. Be interested in something. Don't be interesting. The people who are interesting are people who are interested. Note to self, be interested, not interesting. You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people to be interested in you.
True. Very true.
Very, very true. And that's all I have, guys.
Nice. I like that slide you made there. I could tell that you made it with our colors.
Yeah.
And stuff. I was like, nice.
Yeah, I try to do it on theme and stuff. Yeah. And I want to put it in my own words a little bit too. So I tweak like what it is and how it's separated and stuff. So yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, I think I learned a lot about asking questions, and it's like I was saying, like people like us are so curious, and we're like logical minded people. We're like trying to figure out the next thing, like what is this? How does it work? But we're not thinking about how we're asking questions and really dissecting. Like the question is the important thing here, not the answer. The question is way more important in how we ask it and what we ask than the answer is. Sometimes we just get so lost in the discovery, the next over the hill, that we're not in the moment. It's kind of difficult. Being impeccable with your word, watching the words that come out of your mouth and how you say them, what you actually mean when you're saying them.
Questions.
We got any questions in there? We'll switch over to mycology here in just a second, guys. Now the nerdy's here. We'll
Like a lot
pick
of
back
people,
up on.
a lot of people like us or the T crew, we kind of, at least I find myself making the assumption that other people are also on the core agreement. You
Mm.
know, it is foreign to them to even behave anything like that, not making assumptions, not taking things personally, and you know, it because a lot, everyone in our circle, we've heard it, and we
Yeah.
all kind of say it back and forth to one another. And there's going to be some people that don't know and are still doing okay, but to deal with them the same as someone that's read the four agreements and is a lot different and can be challenging.
Mm-hmm.
I
That's why I
find
think
that.
that asking questions builds community. Really does. Like, hey, why are you feeling like this? Why aren't you practicing the agreements? Do you actually believe in the agreements? That's why I love what Nerdy put up at the beginning of the show, and we'll play it again on the way out here. Um, but it's what your intention is, why you're doing what you're doing, and what you're actually, the thought you're putting into it, the context behind what you're saying and how you're feeling.
$51.50. Who's $51.50?
Cheers, Quasi.
Morning $51.50.
Cheers, Pacers. Sup. Cheers, everyone. Thank you all for being here.
Yeah, what's up, Pacers?
Yeah, it's something I'm gonna have to think about for a little while.
Which part?
Just the questions thing, like, because I feel like it's very much what you said. Like a lot of us are guilty of. We just like recklessly like, what is this? How does this work? Without being like, just to think about this for a second first. Like maybe I
Yeah.
learn more that way. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
observe. And
Yeah.
every observation isn't even every observation isn't worth your time.
Correct.
There was a part in Plato's Republic, Book 7, after Allegory of the Cave, where they're talking about how observations aren't all equal. And one of the examples he used was this is just, here's 3 fingers. I'm like, okay, yeah. What's the value in that? That observation served no purpose whatsoever. Yeah, great. You have 3 fingers. Okay. But as soon as you start giving that more context, like, okay, this is my middle finger, this is my pointer finger, this is my ring finger, and then you start getting more context, and then it starts having more value, but it's still, what's the point? I think everything should have a purpose.
You're not telling them to read between the lines, are you?
No. Plato is, getting creative with his telling people to F off.
So yeah, by the end of the show, I think I'll elaborate on Einstein's quote: "Question everything without your ego." Without your ego attached to it. Because if you're asking questions just to ask questions, and it's like your feelings and emotions are attached and involved in this, and you're not thinking logically, you need to step back. But maybe you're right.
With Einstein, I think he meant it more in a context of question authority figures.
Deeper.
Question
really?
everything. You just take everything for granted. Question that stuff. Just because you know something to be true doesn't mean it to be true.
Well, the way that I think about it, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think that he means to question deeper, to look at something like um, Newton with the apple falling and going, well, why did the apple fall? Well, first of all, you have to, it's like I was saying, you have to understand previous questions to know the question that you're asking. So then you have to learn about gravity, know about gravity. So he had to discover gravity. So he had to ask more questions like, well, what even is gravity? So it's like, I think that
Right.
that's kind of, me personally, that's what I think he meant.
I think it goes
Like
back
asking
even
deeper
further
questions.
to maybe even Socrates with the Socratic thought. How to form a proper statement, and how do you know
The
what's
thinking
true?
man.
And but you know what's true by constantly questioning and reforming and re-questioning and reform your thought and reform the question and keep asking that question and keep changing the question to where it fits. And once you find a
Exactly right,
question
sir.
that you can't disprove, kind of like how you were saying, no one can get hurt by asking questions. I can't think of any instances where people have been hurt by asking questions, but I can think of instances where people have been hurt by not asking questions.
Correct. Because a lot of
Um,
assumptions happen.
mhm. Or asking the wrong questions. I find people often get hurt by asking the wrong questions.
We're asking the
And they,
question the wrong way.
right, or
Yeah.
asking a question that's not even relevant to what they're asking. And I'm like, well,
All
like,
these things are true.
for example, like with mushrooms, people are always asking, can I eat that? The answer is yes. Should you eat
This is
that?
this is a
Is
can
the
I, may
proper
I go to the
question.
bathroom situation, isn't it, Jody? May I eat
Yeah.
that? So yeah, you still may. That's crazy.
Right. So it's all about how you're phrasing the question too. It's gonna
Yeah,
completely
I
change
get
the
you.
context. Yeah.
100%.
But yeah,
Context is
go ahead.
everything.
You can eat that. Like there was a little
Yeah.
cartoon I saw. Someone was asking their AI if they could eat a mushroom, and the next scene was like them eating. They were like, "Yeah, but don't. But it's gonna kill you." Blah 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 blah. Because they didn't finish this.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah. It's one of many my college's favorite little jokes in the field is like everybody's always wanting to know if they can eat stuff. Can I eat that? Look, it's a
Yeah.
rock. It's a rock, dude. Yes, you can eat it. Go for it. But I honestly, I am under the impression, like I have a way more unorthodox way of looking at that question. Can I eat that? Just because I don't view, look, when it comes to mushrooms specifically, I don't view if it's not poisonous and if it's not toxic, then it should be safe. And there's a way that you can prepare it and make it tasty and nutritious, probably. For example, turkey tail is not a edible mushroom. It's a lot of people consider it a medicinal mushroom, but like if you were to take a turkey tail and pop it in your mouth and start chewing on it, it's not going anywhere. You're not chewing it up into little tiny pieces. It's just a piece of wood, and people use it like bubble gum and things like that because it's so durable. But it's at the same time, if you put it into the proper preparation, you dry it out, you powderize it, and you turn it into a tea, it's quite nutritious and healthy for you. So there's a lot of those mushrooms, they're in that category. They're like polypores or just mushrooms that we haven't done enough research on, where I'm like, that's edible and it's not toxic. Well, okay, I'm gonna back up a tiny bit. There's a big difference between poisonous, toxic, inedible, edible, and medicinal. And then there's also entheogenic if you want to add a number six. But poisonous, in my mind, it's going to kill you. It's causing damage, permanent damage to your body. Toxic, you're not going to be happy that you ate it, but it's not going to cause any permanent damage. Like Amanita muscaria, things like that. But like a lot of these mushrooms fit into multiple categories because like Amanita muscaria is both toxic and food because if you prepare it properly, it has none of the toxic properties and it's just a nice edible mushroom. You boil it, you
Great point.
parboil it, and dump it off the water a couple times. It's a good mushroom. Um, but it's all about asking the right question. Like, how would I prepare this? Um, but yeah, anyway, I'm just ranting now.
No, man, you're good.
um, I went to a talk, two talks. It was the same talk with Dr.
Uh-huh.
Gordon Walker last week and over the weekend, and he was talking about turkey tail and things like that. And he had his
Hmm.
categories. He was like, "This mushroom's a tier 5." Like he has like a 5-star rating system for mushrooms, and he's like, he's putting my favorite mushroom at a 2-star mushroom. And I'm like, dude, no, that's a good mushroom. And the second time I saw him, I actually brought him some of my infused oil with that mushroom in it. And I'm like, here, this is for you. Take it.
Okay.
Because I want him to understand, like, this, just because you don't know how to prepare it properly doesn't mean it's not a good mushroom. And it's all about preparation, especially with these swillus mushrooms. They're truly my favorite mushrooms. They're so
Oof.
good.
They're really
They're
good flavor.
underrated. Yeah, deeply
To
underrated.
elaborate on your point that you were making, I think that, and speaking totally out of pocket here, maybe you can pick up on the exact numbers, but something like 7 to 10% of mushrooms are edible. Less than 1%, around 1%, are quote unquote toxic or poisonous, and then the rest of them, like you claim, are either quote
Unknown.
unquote inedible, but they're like you can still eat them technically, but there's ways that you have
Well,
to prepare them, or they're not choice edible, or things like that.
most mushrooms you encounter, 99% of them, I'm just throwing numbers out there, are probably not going to kill you. It's that 1% that you have to know so that you, when you come across it, you don't accidentally mistake it for something that's edible. And it's really, really important to study those mushrooms first. The Amanita, the destroying angels, and there's like several different amanitas that are just completely just kill you, and there's no cure. They cannot save your life. Well, I take that back. There's a new treatment that gives you a 50-50 chance to live. 50-50 is better than before, so I'll take that. But just don't eat the mushroom. Don't eat anything that looks like that mushroom. If it's an amanita and it's white, don't bother with it. There's other mushrooms that look like that mushroom that are totally edible, and that people get confused with that mushroom. I'm like, no, if it's growing out of a vulva and it's white and it looks like that, I'm not touching it. I'm not even going to take the risk. But if there's plenty of other amanitas out there, then I'm like, okay, it's got a red cap. I know what toxins are in this mushroom. If I prepare it properly, it's a good entheogenic mushroom. But if I don't prepare it properly, it's actually quite toxic, and there are some serious risks associated with it. But morel mushroom, here's a good example. The morel mushrooms are actually toxic mushrooms. People have died eating this mushroom. And a lot of people who are serving them in their restaurants, they don't understand what they're doing when it comes to preparing these mushrooms. Any good mycologist that's worth it, that's worth their money, which I'm not paid anything, so will tell you, no matter what the mushroom is, cook it. Cook it, cook it, cook it. If you think it's cooked enough, cook it some more. Just cook those mushrooms, because the toxins that are in a lot of these mushrooms will get killed off if you cook it properly. Like morel mushrooms are one of those mushrooms where some of the closely related mushrooms also produce gyromitrin, which is like essentially it turns into rocket fuel in your body, and it's really, really, really bad for you. So we suspect, we don't know what the toxins are in the morels, but we do know that if you cook it long enough and you totally 100% caramelize those mushrooms, they're safe to eat. But there's also some people that start building up tolerances and stuff. There's just not enough. We don't know enough information. And then, like, anyway, going back to what you were saying with the mushrooms being edible, not edible, I would say like maybe 5% are known choice edibles, and then the rest is just unknown. We really don't know what's out there. We've only have like about 10% of the mushrooms out there truly like actually described, and we know what they are. Out of the 100 plus mushrooms that I submitted for DNA sequencing last summer, I would say that at least a third of them are undescribed, and we don't know what they actually are. And we need somebody to actually, that looks awesome, dude.
I think I'm backwards here. Let me flop my camera around.
Is that an iNaturalist card?
Yeah, it's yours. I was showing it off last time when you were here. Well, let me turn my camera around.
Oh yeah. Yep. So that's a nice little zine that I made with my daughter. My daughter did that art.
Yeah, this little.
I have it floating around here somewhere. The actual art. Oh, I have one of them. Here's one. Oh, you're there.
But the reason why I bring this up because Nerdy was saying, you guys are got a good chance to go out and forage this year and find some mushrooms that have never been discovered before. And you do it on this website or this app right here. It's a website
Now,
and an app.
since you mentioned that, I'm going to go ahead and pull something up here.
Okay. If you guys want to find Nerdy, this is his account, and he'll be able to help you identify your mushrooms that you find.
Yeah, or
So make
join
sure
the
to follow him on
league and just
Narcos.
post your findings in
The Discord.
the foraging channel.
If you
So
guys
I
are already a
haven't.
part of the Mystics channel, we can get you the Discord through there.
So upcoming on April 24th and April 26th, I have a new event coming up. Introduction to Foraging Mushrooms for Science. Free for all ages. And this mushroom right here is that Trugompus I was talking about previously. I think it's really, really cool that nobody has found that mushroom in Colorado until I did. You know, I was like, holy shit, this is a really, really new mushroom that was only discovered a couple years ago in Mexico. But then I found it here in Colorado. Now, this is a really, really special mushroom, culturally significant mushroom. But basically, I'm going to be during the event, both events, I'll be explaining how to take the best possible research grade pictures for iNaturalist. And when you do that, you're directly supporting fungal biodiversity surveying efforts. You're directly helping people like me go out there and find the rare stuff so we can document it and actually describe it. And we can get these things with some proper names. And also,
Cool.
when you're doing this, during the event, I'll teach you how to prepare your specimens and how to send them into Mycota for DNA sequencing for free. If you're in a specific state like Colorado, Colorado is an open call, so anything you send in from Colorado, they'll just process it for free. And we want to know what is in our woods. We need to know for what's the word? Remediation and for preservation type stuff.
Cool.
And then also I'll teach you how to start your own fungarium. So a lot of times when I collect mushrooms from the woods, I will send one into Mycota and I will save the rest for myself. So if it ends up being something super duper cool, I have, like, if I'm the first person that discovered this mushroom, I have the type collection. So any other mushrooms that are found past that first person that found it and I have the collection, all of their mushrooms have to look like my mushroom in order to be that mushroom. So it's called the type collection. So if you're the first person to find it, it's really, really helpful to actually save it and collect and preserve it. Conservation. Thank you, Joe Dees. That's the name I was looking for, the word I was looking for.
Joe D's like, I got you back, buddy.
Joe, thanks. But there are other parts of the country that is an open call right now as well. But if you're not in a part of the country that has open call, they have a window in the middle of the summer. It starts in July, to where they have the entire continent. It's a continental myco blitz, to where if you submit any mushrooms that you find during that time frame, they'll process it for free and they will welcome it and they will send it in. Oh, that mushroom. Mike Barball says, "Nerd, are you going to clone it to colonize it?" Unfortunately, that mushroom, Crugonphus conasiensis, is not cultivatable. It is a ectomycorrhizal fungi that grows in association with some of the trees. I think it's the conifers. It's a offshoot. It's closely related to my favorite mushrooms, the Sewillis, but it re-evolved gills. So it's a really, really special mushroom to me. And it's I want to find some more and eat some. It looks like a delicious mushroom, and I know it's edible. But I can't clone that one, unfortunately. I just have to know where to go to pick them, and that makes them that much more special, kind of like a truffle in my mind. If you know about a special mushroom and no one else knows where to find it, and it's a nice choice edible, I'm into it. So I would put Crugonphus in the same category as like Gomphidius. Gomphidius is like its close cousin. It also evolved from Sewillis. It's just not as pretty. A lot of the Gomphidius we have in Colorado is Gomphidius subroseus. The top of the cap is actually pink, but the stipe, the further you go down on the stipe, the more yellow it gets. As you can see, this one's yellow on the bottom too. That's one of the reasons why you can tell they're closely related, because they're both have that yellow stipe on the bottom, and they tend to have a slippery cap that you can peel off, kind of like a Swillis. But yeah, it's a bolete with gills. Isn't that neat?
Mello asked, is it just in America or is it anywhere in the world?
Oh, that is a good question. I'm going to find out. Do you want to carry on the conversation here while I figure what I think?
Yeah. If you have your list, I went over it last time, but I'd like you to go over it and just kind of give people a run through on the stuff that they're going to need, um, the sterilization technique, and just a basic run through on start to finish, inoculating to spawn to colonizing grain and fruiting.
I'm going to send a link to mycoda.com. These are the guys that will do your DNA sequencing for free. So they will have all of your answers. Right now, it seems like there's some places in Canada. They have Canada and the United States. So right now it's all North America, looks like. And Jamaica? No. Maybe Mello. Maybe. You might have to look at the map and see where they're accepting. Myco Map Rockies Network. That's cool. All right. So what were you saying, HB? You were wanting me to talk about like how I do my process?
Yeah, and I have your list over here, your nerdy list that I got from you at the last meetup.
Mm-hmm.
Give me just a second. I gotta fucking kill him too. I gotta put something on real fast.
About my piece, I can try to wing it if you want, but it might be better just to answer some specific questions. If people have any questions about my methods, I'm very.
I wanted you to specifically highlight the sterilization without the pressure cooker.
Oh, tandalization. Okay. So tandalization, also known as fractional sterilization, it's when you don't have a pressure cooker, and if you just have a big pot, like a big spaghetti pot with a lid, that's all you need. And this is actually going to sterilize, not just pasteurize. So what you do is you basically just fill it up to where there's enough water covering whatever it is you're trying to pass. Well, okay, let me take this back. So let's say you already have your grain prepared and you already have it in jars and you're wanting to sterilize those jars of grain. That's generally where people want a pressure cooker. So you have these jars of grain. You need to have a riser in the bottom of your pot. So either some jar lids or a trivet, something like that in the bottom of your pot. Make sure you put enough water in there just to cover up your trivet. Put your jars in there, and then you heat it on medium-high heat for like 60 minutes. I don't know if it needs to be medium-high. I think it just needs to be medium, just enough to boil it. Because boiling, it won't go past the temperature of boiling. But you boil it for 60 minutes and then wait 24 hours, then boil it another 60 minutes, and then 24 hours, and then 30 minutes. Isn't that correct? Or was it 60, 60, 60?
Yes, you got it right.
It was 30 minutes. Okay. But
Yep.
it wouldn't hurt to do an extra 60 minutes that last time just to make sure. But generally, everything I've read about tandalization is that those first two steams actually kills everything. The third one is just kind of overkill, just to make sure that you did a good job. It's kind of like double checking your work on that third steam. But it's essentially anybody can do it, even if you don't have a pressure cooker or an Instant Pot. I personally prefer my Instant Pot just because
Go ahead.
it's because you can just set it and walk away. You can set it and forget.
Yeah, it says here on pressure heat your vessel for 3 hours, set it and forget it. Once depressurized and completely cooled, it's ready to inoculate. Yep.
And you want to make sure it's completely depressurized.
I should hold this QR code up. If you guys want this, here's the QR code for it. Hopefully I'm holding this up right. Yeah.
Is that a QR code for it, or is that just a donation link?
Maybe it is a donation link. Yeah, it is.
No. If anybody wants it, just reach out to me and I can send you a copy.
Okay, cool.
That should be easy enough.
But yeah, just give people a really quick walkthrough on what you do your way. How would Nerdy
Well,
do it from start to finish?
well, I was always really inspired by the broke boy techs, just because I'm a broke boy. I don't have a lot of money, and I want to figure out how to do things on the cheapest budget I possibly can, because I want to. I know a lot of people that need mushrooms. They're in the similar situation. They don't have a lot of money, and they need as much help as they can get. And a lot of people overcomplicate this process because they're honestly trying to make a buck. They're usually most of these people are trying to sell something. No, no hard feelings. Go ahead, sell your stuff. But I'm here for the everyday person, the home mycologist or the home cultivator, somebody that's not doing this professionally. I want to teach those people, because you don't need a tent. You don't need. Somebody told me something early on. They said that if you're comfortable, the mushrooms are comfortable, and that really hit home for me. And it, and I'm like, I just really became the most lazy mycologist ever because I don't have any of this fancy equipment. I just have a shelf. I know my place is a mess, but I have a shelf over there with my tubs on it, and
I should
that's
show
it.
mine off too. I have basically the same thing. You've inspired me to do it that way. And I've
And
literally been thinking about the same thing you've been saying at the last meetup like that. The mushrooms are comfortable, you're comfortable.
and the mushrooms want to grow. It's all that really matters is if you have good genetics. The mushroom genetics I gave out at that grow along, I'm kind of embarrassed because I think they senesced a bit over the winter. Everybody that I saw that was growing them, they got these little itty bitty tiny mushrooms, and I got the same thing. And I'm like, that's not what I grew last summer. But it was just that I neglected my genetics and they got a little old. If with enough time, I can work these genetics and I can get them bigger again. Oh, that's a nice size.
Yeah, these are blueies.
Oh, okay, that's not the ghost. Okay.
No, the ghosts are coming in. My camera's mirrored, so hold on, let me turn it around where I can actually see what I'm doing here.
All right.
Yeah, some Louis Vuittons and chunky little guys. I wish I had better pin set on this. There's a lot of pins coming in down there you might can see.
Oh, they're big. You got some nice big mushrooms out of it.
Big
Generally
old chunky
speaking,
guys.
if you're either going to get a bunch of like a handful of big mushrooms, or you're going to get a whole bunch of little ones. Either
Right.
way, you're
Okay.
pretty much getting the same amount of volume. It just depends on what you prefer. Like some genetics give you bigger mushrooms, and some genetics give you smaller, scragglier ones. But there isn't really much difference in the volume that you get.
So that's why GY. Here's my ghost in the back. It's fully colonized. I don't have any pins yet, but it's
Yeah,
just
it
now
took a
fully
long time for
colonized.
me. It took like twice as long than it should have for that ghost.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do another grow
Yeah, I
along
had it in
soon.
bag and I switched
Do
it
my
to
tiny
tub.
knocker. So
Yeah, these little
what I
guys got
do
kind of tall.
to keep my things cheap is I buy my containers at Dollar Tree. This is a half size container. I usually do the shoebox size. So the bottom is the tub. The top, I just use the top as a dome so it lets the light in. Then when I just mist the top of my dome and I let the mist come down onto the top of the surface.
I can show it off if you'd like.
Yeah, and I like to use trash bag liners from the dollar store. The cheaper, the better. The thinner the plastic is, it's better because it will shrink with your cake, and you won't get side pins. The whole point of a liner is to prevent side pins. You want everything coming off the top. You get cleaner, nicer, prettier mushrooms. And when it comes to food for your mushrooms, it's pretty much any grain. You can, mushrooms aren't picky. They just like grain. You can pick popcorn. You can pick, I like Milo. Milo is my personal favorite because I can buy it in bulk, and it's really, really, really easy to work with. There's small grains, and there's a lot of inoculation points. So popcorn, rice. You could use oats. I see people using millet. Some people use bird seed, wild bird seed from Walmart. You can just buy a bag of that. The only thing with bird seed is you need to take out the sunflower seeds. The mushrooms do not like the oil in the sunflower seeds for some reason. Other than that, like you basically need a vessel with some grain in it, and once that's fully colonized, you mix it with some substrate, and I just use cocoa coir. A lot of people, for their substrates, they will use cocoa coir, gypsum, and vermiculite. I skip the gypsum and vermiculite, and I just do cocoa coir. I'm not trying to grow the biggest, baddest, strongest mushrooms. I'm just trying to grow enough mushrooms for me for my medicine and to give away to my friends. I'm not trying to win the psychedelic cup. I know people that are, but I'm like, it's not my goal. I don't care about the psychedelic cup at all. I just want to bring mushrooms to the people so that they can start growing their own medicine. And it's not hard. Grain, genetics, substrate, and any container. And it doesn't have to be a plastic container. You can use a piece of pottery and just put a lid on. You could even use a cardboard box. Like the class I taught that HB's talking about, it was I called it "How to Grow Mushrooms in a Shoebox on a Shoestring Budget," and I was like, you can literally just take a cardboard shoebox, take that trash bag I was talking about, and just line the cardboard box with the trash bag, and it's going to keep it dry, and that's all you need. You just need a container. It doesn't matter what it's made out of. I don't know if I covered everything you want me to cover on that, but
yeah, man, I think that's pretty good. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and shoot it off, man.
If anybody has any questions for me, I wasn't paying attention to the chat, so you may need to repeat it. Mike Barbell says, "Is that the original picture of the mushrooms I found?" Yes, that is. I can send you the iNaturalist link. The nice thing about iNaturalist is that all of the most famous mycologists that I can think of, they're all on there. They're all contributing to iNaturalist, and I can see where Alan Rockefeller finds his mushrooms.
Hey, I'm nerdy. Hey,
Yeah,
what's up, everybody? Hey, I think I can switch one.
Yeah, you could probably switch that out. But the nice thing about iNaturalist is that if I'm following you, when you upload a picture or an observation of a mushroom, I will see it in my feed, and I can contribute, and I can say, I think it's this. And other people like Alan Rockefeller, or I'm just going to start naming famous mycologists like Ed Lubo and James Chalene and Dr. Amy Honan and Dr. Gordon Walker. Like all of these people are on iNaturalist, and they're all using it. And it's such a priceless tool. I can't get over how useful this tool is. It is like because I'm getting a lot of my mushrooms DNA sequenced, I can now know how to search for DNA sequenced mushrooms in Colorado. So I can narrow my search down to like only Colorado, only mushrooms that have the DNA sequenced, like the DNA barcode, its field filled in. So now what I'm doing is I'm starting to search only for DNA barcoded mushrooms so I can see the pictures. I know for a fact that mushroom is what they say it is, and it's not getting confused with anything else. Because there's a lot of mushrooms like russulas. There's 5 different russulas that all look the same, and I don't know what the difference is without DNA sequencing. But if I can figure out what that difference is, and I can become the russula guy that's figured it out, then I can start naming some of these things. Because if we can't name them unless we can start telling them apart. But looks like we lost HB there. But I love iNaturalist. It is such a.
No, I'm still here. I'm just trying to see if I can get on the thing.
If anybody signs up for iNaturalist and you find some mushrooms, I don't care where you live, I will gladly help you try to ID it, and I will probably get it down to genus. If you're not in Colorado, it's unlikely I'll get it down to species, but it's possible. There was a friend down in Texas that sent me some mushrooms and some pictures, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what that is. That's really, really confusing. I've never seen that one before. It looks like an oyster, but it also looks like a clitosobe. I'm not quite sure. It turns out it's not. I kept going back and forth. It was like, is it clitosobe? Was it oyster? I don't know. It turns out it's another species that's not very common in Colorado. It's called Panis. It's the oysterlings. And so that's why it looks so much like an oyster. And I was like, now it all makes sense. I'm like, okay, it basically is an oyster, but I'm like, is it edible? I don't know if it's one of those choice edible oysters or not, because it's really, really fuzzy looking. It's got some texture to the cap. I'm not sure if I would want to eat that, but it was really pretty. And as soon as I figured out what it was, I was like, oh yeah, it's Panis. I got so excited. And I was shouting, jumping up and down in my living room. I love discovering new mushrooms that I don't know yet. And there's a lot out there. Other people know what they are, but I just don't have the vocabulary or the knowledge of what they are yet. But I'm learning a little bit at a time.
Yeah, man. Right on. Never better for not knowing something. Just ask the right questions, man. Learn to listen, and the whole thing. The fun thing about life is it never stops, dude. Even when we're 90, if we let it be that old, if we're lucky, then we'll still be asking questions.
Yeah.
That being said, ask questions if you got it. Let me see if I got those. Cocoa core works well with just vermiculite too. Yeah, Pops was talking about he does use vermiculite, and he offered a suggestion about why and a ratio as well. We talked about this last time.
I won't say it's not beneficial because it is, but if you're on a budget, skip it.
You don't have to, right? I don't use it personally, and my mushrooms come out just fine.
The benefit is that it does provide some aeration, which the mushrooms need that oxygen. It really, really helps them grow faster, and it helps some of the moisture retention too. So I understand the reasons, and yeah, there is a benefit, and I won't say that there isn't a benefit because there is. It's just that that's not what I'm chasing. I'm not chasing the biggest.
I hope I mentioned that last time that you just say it's not necessary. I think I did mention that.
Yeah. Well, either way, people can ask. People get confused all the time. There's a lot of mycologists that like people are like, well, you said this, and I'm like, no, I said this, slightly different, but almost. You almost got it, but it's okay. It's fine. I say stuff that's wrong all the time.
Man.
Know the difference to correct me.
Practice our fifth, baby.
Yeah. I'm just doing my best, and I try not to talk about things I don't actually understand. But there's no matter who it is, there is not one famous mycologist out there that I've encountered that doesn't get things wrong. Everybody gets things wrong. There's no exceptions. Everybody. Paul Stamets gets it wrong. Gordon Walker was talking about some stuff that Paul Stamets was getting wrong on his most famous talks. And same thing with Gordon Was, with Dr. Gordon. Like one of my friends, he's kind of the Alan Rockefeller of Colorado. He's like really, really famous. He was like, yep. He just bought Gordon Walker's book, and he was like, I already found some mistakes. And then I'm going to his website, my friend, and I'm like, dude, your website needs to be updated. This Russell is not a Russell, I can tell. And it is snowballs. Like everybody's getting something wrong. Everybody.
No one can be perfect, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're just doing our best.
That's the thing, to take ego out of it. That's why, like I've talked about this before. As much as I love Terrence McKenna and respect him, it's like I don't do the whole, oh my God, it's Terrence McKenna, because I know he's just a human being, just like we are. And there's things that he says that we can't, like, we have to take our ego out of what we do, and we have to take their ego out of it too. Like, they're not God.
Yeah.
They're just humans. Yeah, man.
But yeah, I see a lot of egos in the mushroom community. I kept a low profile for a long time. A lot of these famous mycologists are starting to realize who I am, but it's not why I'm doing it. I don't need them to know who I am, but at the same time, I need them to know who I am once it starts to matter. Like once we're going to start working together, okay, you need to know who I am. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't care if anybody knows who I am or not. I'm just here for the mushrooms. I care more about the mushrooms than the people. Like I don't, like, yeah, sure. Alan Rockefeller's a cool guy, but Same thing with Dr. Amy Honan or
He's your
James
boyfriend, I
Cleary
call.
or Ed Lubo. Like every one of these people, they're all so socially awkward. Like every one of us is our own flavor of like ADHD or something like that. It's interesting. Like every time I meet one of them, I'm like, this guy's on the spectrum. this guy gets me. Yeah. But honestly, I'm really, really glad to be doing what I'm doing. I really, really love these mushrooms. And there's a few people that are like, well, I'm not so sure about that. I'm like, okay, challenge accepted. Let's find out. But yeah, there's a few challenges I'm
Yep.
on this summer. There's
That's
a few
why I
mushrooms.
said when people were asking questions, don't assume to know. Be like,
Yeah.
I'm not really exactly sure. Let's learn about that. Try to
And
figure it out.
the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know.
Yeah.
And
Dunning-Kruger effect.
it keeps
It's
happening.
called the Dunning-Kruger
I'm like,
effect.
oh, I thought I knew that, but I didn't.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so embarrassing in the moment, but then you're like, okay, I'm not gonna take this personally. I'm not gonna beat myself up.
So
Time
many
to move
know-it-alls.
on.
So many chiefs and not enough Indians. You know what I mean? Like so many know-it-alls. Everybody's like out there fucking trying to be the guy to lead and show and teach, but nobody's out there trying to learn.
That's a great suggestion, Waz. He says if you put the wild bird seed in water, a lot of the sunflower seeds float to the top.
Yeah. Okay.
Jody says Quar works well just vermiculite too. Yeah, I bet it does. Uncle Ben's tech is it okay? If that's all you got and you're trying to be discreet, it's a great discreet option.
It's the way that I've done most of my grows. I've just now switched over to doing my own cocoa and grain jars and stuff.
I know some
I actually have
people
some lines made that are
that's
on grain right
all
now.
they do. But if that's
Yeah.
all you do, good luck getting anybody within my mycology community to take you seriously.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah,
you
you
are
have to learn
doing
how to
it
do your own
because
grain and stuff.
you need some medicine, doesn't matter what anybody thinks. Just do it.
Yeah.
But I do have to say that it has a higher failure rate than most other techs.
I had a Ben's bag fall behind my dresser, and I found it a while later. And surprisingly, the whole bag was colonized. I had these huge fruit coming out of the top, like I had the corner cut on the bag, and I had these huge fruit coming out of it. And it was all solid on the top of the rice, like it filled the top of the bag, like the bag was like, and it had these huge fruit coming out. So I mean, I
Crazy.
opened and broke it off from the rice. I mean, it was like all these fruit just grew together. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
Which begs the question, why do you put it in soil? Is it just to make it like stretch it out?
The whole
If you could just
point,
grow it on spawn.
if you're the whole reason that you want to add substrate is because it's cheaper than grain, and you are expanding the amount. Like if you let's say you have like a jar of spawn, you can expand that one jar into an entire tub. And in fact, if you actually make it more of like a 2-part to 1-part, like 2-part substrate to 1-part substrate, I mean spawn, you'll have bigger mushrooms and they'll grow faster because they'll realize they're running out of food faster. But it's all about giving it and spreading out the growing matrix so it can start spreading out and start realizing that it's running out of food.
So what's the ratio you use?
I tend to do 1-to-1, but no. At the event, I was doing a 2-to-1. So I would take the amount of spawn that you had and I would try to eyeball double it. So it's like half and half. And then I would mix that 50-50 in the bottom of your tub. And then I would add like another part. So that's 1 part and 1 part. So I would take another part of substrate and just spread it across the top as your pseudo casing layer.
Yep. And that's what I did as well.
Right. And that tends to give me pretty good results. But back in the day, I just didn't care. I just eyeballed it every single time and just 50-50'd it. But as soon as I learned that you can get better results when you start skewing the ratio in favor of the substrate, you get better results. That's when I started doing more. Chris Vinci, he would probably disagree with me on that. He would say just go ahead and do the 2-to-1, but Mix it all together on that bottom layer and do not do a casing layer. In my mind, the casing layer is also helping it reorient the growth up. But in
I've
his
personally
mind,
noticed this.
you're shaving off time by not adding that casing layer. And I'm like, yeah, you are, but you're probably not going to get a full flush. It's going to be a little more spotty and patchy, but it's all personal preference. Like
Yep, I did
don't
agree with you,
disagree with
man.
them in
Yeah,
any way, but yeah, it's just
I agree
what's
with your
cool.
preference for sure. Yeah, I've done it the way you showed me how to do it, and I've had pretty good success so far. I'd like a little bit fuller pin set, but what my problem was is I wasn't doing enough FAE in the beginning stages, so I've increased that, and now I think I've gotten better results.
Mello says there are so many really pretty mushrooms. What's your favorite pretty mushroom, Nerdy? Oh, you're asking me to pick a favorite child?
There's a blue one that looks like the blue angel mushroom. I forget what it's called.
Prettiest mushroom. The one that I always get ecstatic whenever I find it, because I just love how it looks, is Fomitopsis cahandre. It's the rosy conch. It's a medicinal mushroom, so it's very, very woody. I have some floating around somewhere. It's probably in one of my boxes. I don't want to dig for it. But it is really, really pretty. I will find my iNaturalist and share it. Let's see. But I actually have plans with this mushroom. I plan on making some of my own supplements with it. It's known for having some anti-cancer properties and a bunch of other research done on it. And there's also some other Fomitopsis in Colorado that I thought was a different kind of Fomitopsis. It turns out it's something different. I thought we had red-belted conch, but it turns out we have northern red belt, which is Fomitopsis mountziae instead of pinicola.
Florida?
Okay. I know it doesn't look like much, but this is the mushroom that I just love. I'm gonna find the chat again. There we go. Well, maybe I should just pull it up on share the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't look like much in that picture, but it's it's really, really pink. And it's a polypore, so it's got pores in the bottom. This listing specifically, I was pretty proud of this one because I initially guessed that it was Fomitopsis cahandre, and my buddy James Chalene, who is I consider him like an Alan Rockefeller of Colorado. He guessed it was rosea, and I'm like, I don't know. I just added these pore pictures. It really, really seems like it's probably cahandre. And then when the DNA came back, it turns out it's 78% confidence. So, is it really? With a 78% confidence, I still can't say that that's what it is. It might be some sort of offshoot. And then, let's see, I think I had another one. Yeah, this one too. This is also mine. It's really, really pink. Actually, I think I have that mushroom right here somewhere handy. Floating around. Just don't know where it's at. I thought I had it right here. Oh, well. But yeah, there's also a couple other mushrooms that are pink and that look like that. Like there's one that's called the pink sherbet polypore, and it's not known to be edible or not, and some people think it might be toxic, but I want to find it so I can try to get some extracts out of it, because it's known for creating vanillin, and I'm on a mission to create my own mushroom-based fragrances, and I think that having a vanillin producing mushroom in my fragrance would be nice, especially for a nice feminine scent. Yeah, some of my adventures in mushroom hunting. Trying to get back to chat now. Let's see what's everybody saying.
I'm fading here, man. Got a cracked tooth in the back of my mouth. This shit's killing me.
Speaking of cracked tooth, when the moment where I was like, Dr. Gordon Walker is on the spectrum was okay. So there were 2 events that I went to that he was at. The first one, I had brought a bunch of my Starburst prototypes for Chris Vinci to try, because he's the one that put me on this mission for a product for him. And I had 2 different batches. The first batch was like, it was hard. And I was like, I got to make a new one. I got to make it a little bit softer. So I had both batches in the bag. And then when Gordon reached into the bag, he's like, I want one of those. He reaches in and he grabs one, and he grabs the harder one. And he's like really, really chewing it. I'm like, oh, dude, you should have grabbed the yellow one. I feel so bad. So then the next time I saw him, I was like, dude, I felt bad that I broke your teeth on that piece of candy. And he was like, oh, I didn't break a tooth. And I'm like, okay, I'm moving on. That's like, he just didn't get that I was just making, just a random, metaphor. But yeah, so the next time I saw him, I gave him some of my dosed gummy worms, and he was very happy about that. And I gave him some of my Suillus granulatus infused grapeseed oil, because he's a foodie. His specialty is like microorganisms and cheeses and molds and things like that. So the fact that I gave him like an infused oil, I was like, he's really gonna like that one. Especially since like when I had him sign my book, he was like, "What's your favorite mushroom? Like what's your specialty?" He misspelled my name. But he said, "So glad you like using my book. May this help you find all the Suillus." And I just thought it was funny that he considers a Suillus like a 2-star mushroom. I'm like, I'm gonna prove him wrong. So I don't know. I know I made an impression on him. The second time I saw him was at was last Sunday, and that's when I gave him the stuff, the goodies that and I was like, yeah, I don't want anything for you. I'm just here to see you. And it's the same presentation I saw before, but he did give me a couple stickers that no one else got. So that was kind of special. So I was like, yeah, Gordon Walker gave me some of his stickers. So if you've seen random mushroom videos on like Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, the shorts of the guy that taps on his mushrooms before he picks them, and a lot of times you'll jiggle the jellies and stuff like that, and it's kind of gross looking. That's him. His channel is Fascinated by Fungi, and he's one of the first mushroom influencers on the internet. But he's a big deal. He's an actual doctor, but I don't know. I keep debating. I keep battling with this idea in my head. I'm like, who is a mycologist? When does somebody become a mycologist instead of just another citizen scientist or just another amateur? Well, an amateur is a hobbyist. And I'm like, well, I'm not a hobbyist anymore. I'm doing this for real. I'm taking this as seriously as I can. So I am a professional. I'm just as much a professional as Paul Stamets or Alan Rockefeller or Dr. Gordon Walker.
You're a veteran the first day you join.
Like, look, I'm not really a mushroom guy. I just sort of fell into this because of COVID. It is like, I'm like, wow. So who is a mycologist? And I can't find a proper definition. So I guess I'm a mycologist now.
Anybody who picks up a painter or a paintbrush is a painter, dude. The first day you ever go to war, you're a veteran. You don't have to be in war for a long time to be a veteran. First day you go to war. Well, I mean, this Candy's. I know we're running way over time here. But yeah, I want to announce to everybody who's still here. My mushroom tea that I've been working on and curating for about the past month and a half, 2 months or something. Really shaping this shit, trying to get it right. It's called Zeta. Um, it's going to be available in quarter gram and gram dosages, and it's not going to be for sale, but it will be for part of the people who subscribe to memberships. And um, I have an Egyptian lotus, blue lotus tea that has the active ingredients of chocolate in there. So it's not chocolate flavored, it's herbal flavored, but it has the active ingredients of chocolate inside of there. And there's the bliss chemical, anandamine. So this chemical attaches to our CB2 receptors. So it gives us that very cannabinoid effect. So that combined with Blue Lotus, this should be a really nice tea. I'm also going to have a couple other flavors: a jalapeno lemonade, a green tea, and a black tea as well.
Cool.
But yeah, the name of the drink is called Zeta.
I like that. Zeta.
Yeah, Zeta. You guys stay tuned. If anybody who's here who pays for a top tier membership, they will be getting one for free. To sample and try out, let everybody know how it is. Of course, you guys will be getting one as well. Nerdy, whenever I come to the meetup, I'll give you one, and Derek, I'll be shipping you one out.
Cool. So I'll be seeing you on what was the date?
26.
Yeah, 26th. So 24th and 26th. 24th is in Centennial. 26th is in Fort Collins. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, we had a little bit of a long show today.
Yeah, man.
Hour and 30 minutes.
It's great to be back.
Oh,
yeah.
Great to be back.
That was a long week.
Down, so I wasn't able to go live.
If you guys got any questions for us, you know where to reach out. Guys, go sign up over at the website at mysteryjourneychurch.org if you haven't already. It's free to sign up over there, or you can also support us and get a membership. Guys, got any mycology questions? Reach out to us on Instagram or Discord.
Or it's usually the quickest way to get my attention if you want any answers from me. Nerd Nature on Discord. Feel free to DM me, but I do prefer it if people ask me the questions in like the mycology channels of the Colorado Myco League, just so that everybody can benefit from me answering it. There's a lot of people think that their questions are too stupid, and there people will look at them and like, oh, look at this joker. Like, no, a lot of people are having the same questions, and they're just afraid to ask. So please ask your stupid questions.
Be courageous.
And I will happily give you my stupid answer.
Question everything. Yeah. Oh, sweet. It's been a great show. Guys, got anything else to finish up the show?
Nope. Don't think so. Just a lot happening all at once. You know, big season coming.
So yeah, stay tuned, guys. Get out there and go foraging and try to get some stuff turned into iNaturalist. One more time for you guys. Go follow Nerdy on the take a screenshot of this and go follow Nerdy on iNaturalist, or visit follow the Colorado Myco League as well.
If you search Dimitri Wood or Colorado Myco League, my profile will pop up on either search.
Sweet. Yep. Hey, you guys have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow for riffing. Bye, everyone.
Yep. Have a great one, everybody.